Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Peugeot. The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by Media Clip, Advertech Printing, and Independent Photo Imagers.
Hello again and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Peugeot, and today we're joined by Peggy Beauregard of the Nest Egg Builder. She's coming to us from Southern California, and she's been investing for 40 years. Hi, Peggy. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. It's so nice of you to invite me. I'm very honored.
So, Peggy, tell me a little bit about your experience as an investor over 4 decades, the kind of the basics you learned that have carried you now to this point.
Well, thank you for asking that. I have been in real estate, investing in real estate and commercial real estate in particular, because one of the things I learned early on is that the tax advantages when you are invested in real estate are something that are not offered in the stock market. And I'm kind of allergic to the stock market. So I have invested. I've been a lender. I've done my own deals where we bought properties. I put people together. We buy properties. We'd fix them up. And then I became later, after I'd put enough away, I started becoming what's called a limited partner, where I would invest my money with somebody else and they did all the work, because there gets to be a point. And I know we're talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, so entrepreneurs know that there's a point where you're tired of doing all the hard work yourself.
Right.
So I became what's called a limited partner, which means I put my money in with somebody that's still willing to do all the hard work. I work in the commercial world, so I work, that means invest my money, because I did work to earn it. And I put my money in with self-storage, mobile home parks, multifamily, industrial, retail. We're not doing a lot of office right now, but that is coming back a little bit. It'll just take a little bit longer. And we have to pay attention to all the economies, because we invest all over the United States, and we work with other people who want their money invested, because we can all have our principal working for us and never worry about running out of money, which is why I'm doing this. I expect that I'll be living to be at least 100 years old, because I have that longevity in my family and I don't want to run out of money. So I want my money working at least 8%, usually somewhere around 20s, makes me much happier. I like double-digit returns. Double-digit returns are the best.
Everyone would love to have a 20% return, I think, these days.
Yeah, well, they're not all.
Inflation doing what it's doing and all that. It's probably not realistic for most people. But knowing that, my audience is primarily, small business owners and entrepreneurs in that space who, they're running primarily service businesses, right? They're processing other people's work. They're not really building, a capital foundation. What would you say to those folks in terms of maybe diversifying their asset allocation, to consider maybe some real estate or commercial investments, or even just buying the building they're leasing is an option?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and you have to set that up differently so that you get the right tax deductions, but we know how to do all of that, and we consult on things like that. Absolutely. We should all have at least 2 or 3 or maybe 4 or 5 or 6 different income streams coming in. Can't just depend on our own business for that, particularly if we're looking to transition in some way. So we look at very different ways, like can you do some sort of consulting? Can you affiliate links, like all these people have affiliate links. Well, you refer someone to someone else and get paid a little bit every time you refer someone. So it's just little things like that. Again, I think real estate's the best, because you can invest in a multiple number of different real estate and have cash flow coming in from 5 or 6 or 10 different assets, and you're set. But yeah, you always have to be looking, because when you're entrepreneur and you're in the business world, the economies keep changing. So you've got to be prepared, because you never know what's going to disappear or what's going to reappear, or what's, look at We don't
Yeah,
know.
because I mean, you're exactly right. Because, like, for example, in our space, the photo imaging space, right, there was the chemical film print, uh, you know, dynamic, right, where you took a roll of film and you processed it and you made prints, and all, and all that went away. Now people are still printing; they're just printing differently now, and they're printing on much different surfaces. They're printing on, glass and tile and ceramic and wood and canvas, and there's all these great things that people are printing on. So the process changed, but the hopefully the business didn't change that much. So, but that also gets into some of the things that I think business owners wrestle with, which is reinvesting back in their business, right?
Hmm.
Because if you're one of these small photo companies and you have all these opportunities to buy equipment to do all these other things, you may actually be limiting your growth potential because you're tying up capital you could be using elsewhere.
Right? And you don't know where you're going to need that.
Mhm.
Like you were talking about that, and I was thinking, 8 tracks are gone, right? Well, and all of that's gone.
Right.
I have a computer now. I used to be able to put a DVD or CD in. Now there's no place to put any of that. And I found a whole bunch of pictures that are on CDs. And I'm like, well, how am I going to see what's on there?
Mhm.
Now they've got those whatever those things are that the pictures just keep
Yeah,
running
digital picture frames,
and,
right.
and they go on the internet and they go to all your family.
Mhm.
And I don't know, my family's everybody's got their own color. So if they've all been having dinner together and when they get home, they hit this thing and it changes the color so that person got home okay. Like that's a whole world.
Right.
Whoever thought of that, I think that is genius because then you just hit it when you walk in. You don't have to worry. My sister's like, call me when you get home. And I always forget because I'm home. Yay.
So anyway, so let's get back to that sort of equation that a business owner needs to look at in terms of, investing. Because then they would say, hey, they're investing in their business, but let's say their business probably isn't getting your 8 to 12 to 20% that
Oh,
your target number is, right? I mean, if their business is getting, 5 or 6%, it's probably doing pretty well these days. Just knowing how the that business world is. So is there a
yeah.
formula or an equation or a guideline you have for people to start looking at redirecting some of their capital into outside of their own business? Is there a number or a percentage you think they need to reach?
Well, I think you just opened a can of worms. One of really, I talked to a lot of people about money working for you in retirement because at some of us are never going to retire, but we still want to have that money there. That you need to look at how much it's costing you to live.
Mhm.
And you got to so there's some things that are you're using for business right now, but one day, like your phone, you could write your phone off right now, but one day that'll be your own, and you will
Mhm.
have that expense coming out of your own pocket. You need to look to see that you need to have somewhere like between 10 and 20% of whatever your money is.
Mhm.
So most people who need between 60 and $100,000 a year need to have about $2.8 million put away and have that money working for them.
Mhm.
When you think about that, most companies aren't going to sell for that kind of money.
Right.
You've got to be putting your money away when you are making a profit. You
Right.
need to take part of that profit and put it into a savings account of some sort
Right.
or a life insurance policy that has compounding in it and then use that cash value to invest that money into something else.
Right.
It's why we like to teach people about how to invest, what it takes to save the money, and then how to invest it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that is one of the things that always I know in my marketplace where I talk to business owners who are looking to exit and maybe they expected the valuation of their business to be higher because they think so highly of it and they just think, well, of course it's worth more.
Mm,
I've done all this work. And the reality is the reward came before when you were taking your dividends or your share or your payout or however you were getting paid. That was your reward. Your reward, the sale for the business is really future potential.
And here's one other thing. Most people don't know how to set themselves up to sell their business.
Mhm.
I met this gal actually. She's quite an amazing woman, and I'm sorry her name slips my mind at the minute, but she wrote this book called no, she wrote, it's called Exit Rich.
Mhm.
And she tells you all the things you need to do to get
Mhm.
ready to sell your business. So just as a suggestion, read a book or call her, and there's people that will consult with you on all the
Right.
things you need to do to make sure you're ready to sell. And every, what is it? Not the asset, the class of business, they all sell for different, 2 or 3 times of whatever their gross is or their net, depending on what the appraisers say.
Right.
So
And all
you've got
different
to know
multiples
that.
depending on.
Yeah, the multiples
Mhm.
and your EBITDA and all that stuff. You've got to know all of that.
But, sadly, I think when some people get into some businesses, they're not thinking about how they're going to get out of it, right? They
No,
just,
but when you go into real estate, that's one of the, before you even put your money in, you want to know what the exit strategies are. So
right,
that's the great thing about real estate is, are there exit strategies? And we've got people that what they do is that some of them like turn the property, fix it up, sell it in 5 to 7 years or whatever their
right,
timeline is. We have other people that actually buy you out because they don't want you in, they want to be owners. So you
right.
get your money back and now you have all your money to reinvest. So you need to know your exit strategy.
Mhm. But I would say that's true for almost every business, right? That no matter what you're doing, you should have an idea how you're going to get out of it, whether it's even just liquidation, right? Like, hey, listen, I know after 10 years, I'm just going to liquidate and be done. And I set my finances up for that. You're not forced to do that, but, or else I'm going to sell. And then how do you set up the business to sell at the right multiple that you want?
Yep. My grandfather started a arborist. He was an arborist, started a business in the Depression and it went 3 generations and they just sold it to another company. So
Mhm.
yeah, you need to know. So how it used to work is my children will take over the business,
Right.
but that's doesn't really exist that much anymore, I don't think.
Well, it does may not exist. I mean, it's interesting because it kind of depends on the industry too, right?
Yes.
Like there's one segment of the industry that I work in, the volume photography industry, right? The people who take school pictures, and there are businesses there that are 100 years old, and they're
Ooh,
run by the grandkids, and it's amazing how and there's multiple examples in that business of multi-generational family businesses, and they know they're an anomaly because they know
yeah.
most of them don't make the transition, even beyond the second generation. It's very unusual because
Yes.
sometimes the kids are not the best people to take the business over.
That's right. It all depends on how you raise them and then what their interests are. That's
Mhm.
why we like to start talking to our children when they're 4 and 5 years old
Mhm.
and bring them into the business to start working on it early so that
Mhm.
you as a parent will know whether this is the right thing for them or not, so that you're prepared that they're not going to be the right people to run your business. Life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Well, there's a lot of people who don't want to, address the reality of life decisions, right? They want to put things off and put things off and put things off. And I think business owners can do that too. They're so focused in the day-to-day operations that they don't look at, the way out, what may be the best out. And, either if the kids aren't going to take it over, all right, do any of the employees want to buy into it? How will that
Mm-hmm.
work? Because
Yeah,
there are a
look at
lot of
Tony
options.
Robbins. Tony Robbins.
Mhm.
The only thing that Tony Robbins has is Tony Robbins. So what did he do? He brought all the people that work for his company. They own the company.
Mhm. And
That's what you
what's going to happen when he's not on stage anymore?
well, they've got that they're working on that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They've got everything that he's ever said recorded. I don't know what they're going to do with it because all
Maybe they'll make
Tony
him into a
Robbins does,
hologram or something, and he'll just.
I don't know. What AI?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
crazy. I actually had a guest on the podcast a while back who was actually one of the firewalkers trainers for Tony Robbins. So this is sort of a Tony Robbins revisited top section of the podcast.
Yeah, I've walked the fire a few times, not just with him, but with others also.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's hot. No, it actually is cool. You don't even notice. So people
Yeah.
get all crazy about it. And Tony Robbins was the easiest one I ever did. It was like 5 steps. I'm like, oh,
Okay.
okay, I'm good with this.
Mhm.
Happened to be raining too, so that was nice. But I've
And
done
they know what they're doing because they've done so many of them too, right?
right. That's right. Right. And so all entrepreneurs, they've done so many things of whatever they do, and they're
Mhm.
experts at it also. But
Right.
one of the things is, again, our communication with our children don't start early enough in life.
Mhm.
And then people get upset because their kids don't want to come into the business, but they didn't bring them in the business when they were 5 or 6 years old.
But don't you think people would argue that that is disrupting like the work-life balance? Wouldn't most people say, you there's your work life and your personal life, and those should be, well, now it's kind of intertwined, but what would you say to folks who are saying, well, it's too separate, I'll bring them in later? Why is 5 or 6 the age, I guess, is the question.
I heard a Catholic priest
Mhm.
tell someone else that if you give me a child by the time they're 5, I will give you a Catholic. And I took a lesson from that.
Mhm.
And if you give me a child and I talk to them about money, by the time they are 5, they will understand money.
Mhm.
They will understand not all of it, but they will understand the basics of it. They'll
Sure.
understand what it takes to buy something, for instance.
Mhm.
They'll understand what the work is. Like
Mhm.
any job I've ever had, I've always felt I should be doing everything. So, how do I know what to expect of an employee if I haven't done it myself?
Okay.
Right? So, that
All right.
kind of thing. And how will you know if your kids like it or not if you don't bring them into it early?
Right.
Part of their life, right? This is what mom and dad do.
Right.
It's what I'm going to do. I go to a family office club, Richard Wilson's family office club, and his kids say they want something, and he tells them, okay, let's think of ways that you can earn the money so you could buy that. And he's got them out on the street with their lemonade stands. They are doing all kind. I mean, really, seriously. I
Mhm.
mean, part of the book I'm putting together, I will have his recording
Mhm.
and transcription in the book about how he talks to his kids. All his kids know everything there is to know, and they're not quite teenagers yet,
Mhm.
but they've started about money at a very young age
Mhm.
because it's part of life, right?
Mhm.
We learn how to walk, we learn how to talk, we learn how to do tie our shoes and tell
Mhm.
time. Why
Mhm.
isn't money a part of that? Why
Well,
isn't money?
kids today can't even make change. So, which shows you that it's gone to the extreme on the other end, right? They don't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, make change. Yeah. But I mean, but all of that, we don't look at it as part of life, and yet it is part of life.
Right.
We make up these stories, but we don't know. You don't
Mhm.
know what other people are thinking. And if you actually sat down and talked to your kids and listened to them, they have ideas that could probably make you a millionaire
Mhm.
if you would listen to them and take
Mhm.
it in, because kids come from nothing.
Mhm.
And then about this age of 7 or 8 or 9, all of a sudden you see they start acting differently. And now they start closing down a little bit, and
Mhm.
just life changes. And
Mhm.
we don't start early enough with our children.
Mhm.
My dad was in the service, but he wanted to be a farmer. So when I was a little tiny kid, I was out there baling hay. Well, they baled the hay, and then we had to move the hay, and we had to feed the cows, and we had to
Right.
feed the kids, and we did all of that. But we were just little kids. I know how to farm. I live on a third of an acre, and I farm.
Mhm.
I know that it's important to have things go to seed, so you could take that seed so that you could have more. Like
How much
I
do you think being raised with that sort of taught you about either long-term planning or delayed gratification, right? Because I think that's an issue with today's folks is,
Oh,
I'd rather spend the money now and not have it for later because who knows what'll happen.
well, that's just part of the upbringing. We give our kids everything now. I mean, when I went to school, when we graduated from high school after 12 years of school, and then we graduated from college after 4 or 5 years or whatever it took. There wasn't a graduation for every year. You didn't get a reward for not participating. You had to wait,
Right,
right?
right.
Until you got through the 12th grade in America, there was no graduation. There was you passed to the next, right? You got your report card and you looked at it and you went, oh, I'm going to the next grade, barely, or whatever it happened to
Good
be.
things come to those who wait, is what I always heard,
Oh,
right?
there's that line. But why do we give kids immediate gratification for everything? We don't
I'm
teach
sure there's a lot of psychological and social constructs around that, which we could delve into, but then we'd be
here another
not
couple.
actually on our topic, which is how business people can build their wealth this way.
You have to wait till you're 16 to drive a car. You have to wait till you're 21 to have a drink. You
Mhm.
have to wait till you're 18 to vote.
But you can start a lemonade stand at 7.
But you can start a lemonade stand at any age. That is correct.
Unless you need a permit, which I hear now they're doing in California. They're making
Well,
some.
you can go get a permit. Nobody said how old you have to be a permit. And I'm sure you need to have somebody with you that can sign for you because you can't sign your own
Right.
till you're 18.
So there's a lot of discussion that, things are different now. The old rules don't apply. Things are different now. And, you just don't understand. But there's also a school of thought that says certain concepts, certain things are universal, they're timeless, and they don't change. And these are what we got to focus on. So, what are some of those timeless things you think small business owners need to focus on to get either their business ready to sell or diversify?
Integrity,
Mhm,
keeping your word,
mhm.
taking care of your customer. Your customer may not be right, but you still need to treat the customer
Right.
with the golden goose.
Mhm,
They're the golden goose. That's
right.
why we have our eggs, right?
Mhm,
We have the eggs. You've got to take what's important. Why did you start this business? Did you start this business to make money or did you start this business to serve?
mhm,
Started our business to serve. We want to show people there's a way to have
mhm.
a better life by investing in real estate,
Right.
good tax deductions, and to be able to build so that you can have anything you want
Mhm,
without breaking your butt and having a good life.
mhm.
Like, and all those things are important.
But it's interesting because I would think some of the things you were just talking about were kind of like, because of the internet with air quotes going, or, things are different now. People just will look for a quick fix or something like that. And that may be advantageous to some people. There's always outliers who can capitalize on something like that. But for the most part, for the vast majority of people, it's what you were talking about, just going in, slogging, doing having integrity, doing the hard work every day and just showing up every day and treating your customers right.
That's it.
Mhm.
And what you want is you want your customers to keep coming back because you make more money with a repeat customer than you do getting a new customer.
Right.
So keep those customers and treat them like the golden goose.
Mhm.
I don't know what else to say about that.
Well, I'm sure you have a lot more to say because you have your own podcast. Where can people go to learn more about your podcast and your website and all the things you guys offer?
Oh, thanks for asking. So we actually call ours a show because it's live,
Mhm.
and we have it every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, and it's at thenesteggbuildershow.com.
Mhm.
And we have different speakers come on, so you might be a good speaker. We have the people who have the real estate come on. We have CPAs and all the different aspects of real estate come on, and a few bonuses here and there. And the idea is that you get to learn something that you didn't know before, and it's every week because you never can learn too much.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Peggy, for your time and for
You're
your
welcome.
knowledge. I have learned a lot and I've been reassured that the next generation, if raised properly, will be able to take care of us in our older age.
I
Thank you
hope
so much.
so. And if anybody does want to get a hold of me, I'm on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
I'm happy to set up a time to have a conversation with anyone.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Peggy. Take care.
Thank you, Gary. Well, it's been a great honor.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.